This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel, and my voice knows no end. It's time we care, it's time to stand. It starts with the voice.
Welcome back to the Special Chronicles show. My name is Daniel. I'm the founder of Special Chronicles and a service ambassador at United Airlines. This is episode 448, and this is season 2, part 1 of our Unified Work series, featuring extraordinary conversations about taking inclusion to new heights. Unified Work series is produced in collaboration with United Airlines and delivered to podcast apps everywhere by Special Chronicles. SpecialChronicles.com for links to subscribe and listen. Our guest this week on the Special Chronicles show is Oscar Munoz, retired executive chairman and previous CEO of United. We were on stage a few months ago at his retirement event at the hangar here at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, where I hosted a Q&A session with him, and now he's graciously agreed to come on the podcast for a little bit longer conversation. And so please put your virtual hands together and welcome Oscar to Special Chronicles. Welcome, Oscar.
And the crowd goes wild. Hey, Daniel, nice to see you.
Hey, nice to see you. I know we just imagine was sitting in front of a live audience when they applaud. Yeah, good to see you. And I know the last time we talked was back in May, I think, when we were on stage.
No, it was a wonderful event, and you're so kind to have shown up. And it's a courageous thing for someone to speak in front of that larger crowd. And, hundreds of thousands on the screen, on the webcast as well. But you did an amazing job, not only representing, obviously, the community that you're part of, but importantly, the community of employees and the caring attitude. And it was a very special moment for me and my family.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's begin. I'm sure some listeners may know you because you've probably been in the news from your time as CEO and then as chairman. But for any new listeners, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and your connection to our Special Olympics move? It's weird on the screen. Special Olympics movement and how you folks got involved in Special Olympics and your current role at United Airlines and what being part of the United family means to you and then what you see as your legacy.
Yeah, that's a broad array of questions. And so I think probably the most important part for me to convey to you and your audience is the advent and the evolution and how we, as a United Airlines, came to partner with the Special Olympics movement. And I think that started with a personal conversation with Tim Shriver and a lot of the team at Special Olympics at an event that we met. And it just struck home in so many ways. And as we sort of vetted it inside the company, as all of you know, the special needs sort of community is quite large. It affects so many people, and it's sort of quiet in so many ways. And what really struck me specifically is we had an incident on one of our aircraft where somebody on the on the spectrum, but not visibly special needs, but clearly had those, is tough for the parents sometimes. So they're traveling. And the child just wasn't responding to some of the conversation they were having with the flight attendant, and it became, frankly, not very well. And it just drove home the point that we don't adequately train our folks to understand and recognize those needs. And at the same time, partnering with Special Olympics was such a great, such a feel-good movement. It touches so many people, but at the same time, the training was very important to our folks. And then importantly, and you're a perfect representation of that, is okay, let's go beyond that. It's not just about feel good and having good pictures and all that sort of stuff. can we give people what all of us need more than anything is that dignity that comes with actual employment, actual engagement, and inclusion and everything. And I think, as I think Tim Shriver put it so aptly when we announced this at one of our big leadership meetings, 4,000 people in the room, and the Special Olympics people came in, and Bree Bogucki, I know who's one of your friends, one of my good friends, came and spoke. But Tim said something that was always sticks with me, and I use it in my speeches all the time. He said, in a world that's constantly divided, he says, we Special Olympics choose a world that's united. And so the play on words was just magical. It fit well with our nice thing. And an incredible relationship was born. And I personally have taken, I was there on the first day that, you and several of your cohorts were hired into the company pre-pandemic. Yeah. And it's just one of the more special moments that we get to participate in. So it's been wonderful. And you asked at the tail end of your questions about legacy. I get asked a lot. And I say, I think a legacy can be many things, right? The success of the company, the strategy, the investors are happy, customers are happy. But for me, I think the most important part is that human beings, the hundreds of, when I was there, 100,000 or so folks that worked at our company that were part of my United family. I take that very personally, and touching every single one of those in a way that makes them feel more included, more involved, more special, not because they're special needs, but because every single human should be treated that way. And I like to see that caring attitude and the new spirit at United that's been created in my watch. I love the fact that it continues and lingers on, and that folks like you get this sort of vehicle to really convey your messages and to show others. And so I can't wait to put this on my, social media feeds and just get ample amplification and make sure that you get even more subscribers.
Thanks. Yeah, it's amazing, and it's a weird thing. We're pre-recording this series out of Odo, so I just talked with Jana and Angela, but people are going to hear this. People will hear it from 2 weeks from now, so the middle of October. So it's a weird thing, but something that people will hear. I just shared with Angela that she said that they created that you guys created opportunities for us in the aviation industry, and that was something in a lot of the job skills classes that I had in school growing up. It was never something that my case managers or my special ed teachers, it's never something that they thought, or that they thought to tell us, that I never thought that I would have this type of opportunity with United. So it's been really grateful and amazing.
You just better articulated what I would want to say is my legacy than anybody could do, right? I have this mantra, as everyone knows, proof, not promise. And what you just said is just music to my ears, warms my heart. And so congratulations on what you're doing. And I'm so glad we could be a part of it.
Thank you. Yeah. And I had Tim on a few times on this podcast in Chicago. We taped in the hallway of a hotel, and then we taped another one virtually when he came out with a new book called The Call to Unite, which is probably also fit in with. So let's move on now and talk a little bit.
If you see him next, tell him I want royalties from that book. Okay.
I will. I was going to see him in Kazan, Russia, but then our World Winter Games got pushed back a year to January 2023. But yeah, next time I see Tim, I'll I'll definitely mention that to him. And so you mentioned briefly about getting involved with Special Olympics, but tell us a little bit more now about the partnership, the global partnership between United Airlines and how a unified employment program with Special Olympics is so groundbreaking, and really kind of get into a little bit about the social impact that the inclusion revolution and take in. I love that ad that we have in the airport of that says on the seat concourse in Chicago that says taking inclusion to new heights. So kind of talk about the social impact of how all unified employment of hiring us athletes into the United family. Talk about the social impact of how that's so groundbreaking for United and for any company to bring us in?
I would characterize a lot of my personal mission in life and the legacy we just discussed in taking everything to a new height, right? I mean, I as a Latino man am the first Latino to ever run a major airline in the world, kind of thing. It's like, oh, whoop-de-doo, I always say. So I long for the time when people like myself and people in your community, where we're not the exception, right? Like the only O'Hare employee to have a big podcast or whatever, but it's that becomes increasingly the expectation that all companies, all walks of life, all philanthropies, all universities see the employment aspects of someone in the special needs community as a good and valuable thing for both parties. And it is. I mean, I explained to you how kind of we got started with an incident on an aircraft. Well, our flight attendants are now better equipped to understand and are knowledgeable about the special needs community, so they can ask the right question, ask the parent, ask the caregiver, hey, how can we best help? And so those are that's the social impact that's there. And so I have a good friend that runs an autism camp out in Colorado. And the stories that I can tell you with regards to people that we've helped over the years, there's been special needs folks that are just, afraid of leaving their home and much less getting in an aircraft for so many reasons. So he reaches out to me and says, if we get him to my camp, I think we can really help his life. So we just easily, for me, I just call our people at the particular hub. This was Dulles, and we get, I say, hey, listen, I have this thing, and they're like, immediately, we got this. We'll take care of it. And they find people in the special needs community that can help. They help, they help the person on board, and it's just that's the social impact that we have. More people are educated, understand, and importantly, are driven to help and assist in a tangible, meaningful way, like employment, like involvement and inclusion in different ways, not just lip service, but something that truly gives back to the community.
Yeah, and showing, I think another coworker, Angela, had talked about, and it might have been another one, Monica had said this, that really showing inclusion as a way of life. And it seems like that you talked about that, how that we're really it's really showing, it's not just talking about it, but we're really
promise and say, no, it's tangible, actual action, as opposed to, no, we really like people. It's, and what happens, and it's happened, sort of in my community, people have preconceived notions, right? And we all have biases, and bias exists. But when you get to interact and see people that are different than you, and you have a good experience, and you leave that engagement in a positive way, and that's the social impact, because we all as a society community learn to appreciate the fact that, hey, I just have this incredible experience with this customer service rep at O'Hare, oh, and he just happened to be special needs. That's an afterthought, because the first thought was, I had an engaging, positive experience as a customer of this airline, and I'm proud to have done that. So it's a fun, and it's a long climb, as you know.
Yeah. Speaking of a positive interaction, I received I will occasionally, when I'm helping somebody trying to find the way through the busy airport that is Chicago, but I'll take a screenshot of on the app and show them where the gate is. And so I emailed this to a customer, and this the next day, this customer had emailed me back, not my personal email, but my work email, and he I've got it printed out over here, but I'll briefly sum it up and said that he was really grateful for me taking the time and showing compassion to him, and Jonna had I'd forwarded her that email from the customer, and she said that that's the type of customer service. That's how we as United are going to rise above the other airlines. Yeah. I don't know if you want to. I feel like that kind of touches on a little bit of what you just talked about.
Again, you're providing proof of exactly what I'm saying. I mean, the culture of a company is an important part, as we all know, and part of developing that culture is getting people to understand why we do things and caring for others. As Jonah said, it's what we're supposed to do. And again, the fact that you did that, it meant so much to that customer, just period. Because we all as humans would love someone to treat us, hey, I'm a customer, I have a problem, can you help me? That's not a lot to ask for. But our business is difficult and tough, and we've got many things going on, and sometimes we forget the very basic premise of why we exist, is that every single one of those humans that are traveling on our aircraft have trusted us, right, to get them from point A to point B. And they don't all live in airports and know that gates are numbered and there's the concourse at O'Hare. They just don't. And so anybody that reaches out and just helps them, it's a meaningful thing.
Yeah. So just a lot of times you don't have a lot of time to interact with another human, but even just showing just a little bit of love and kindness. There's a quote that I say, and it's that, and I came up with this, and I think it can relate to a conversation, and that is that hate can be met by love. So a lot of times people might show either hatred or might be upset because they missed their flight, or there's like all this different stuff that people have going on. But just taking that little bit of time to show compassion and love can go a long way, and it will make people want to come back and fly with us.
There's nothing worse than when somebody is upset for many reasons, right, wrong, or indifferent. It doesn't matter. And a company responds in a way that's just not very genuine. Oh, well, thank you, Mr. So-and-so. We at Company X, we go on to this long sort of, template of conversation that's supposed to diffuse the situation, where you can just walk up to someone and say, how can I help you? Or you can just say, listen, I really apologize for this. How can I help you? What can I do? How do you want me to do this? It doesn't take much to do that. Getting 100,000 people every day in our busy community to take that on is a real, again, back to the legacy aspect, is something that's just really critical. And as John has said, it will differentiate us from other airlines for sure. But thank you for doing what you did. Thank you for setting the example. And importantly, the fact that gets publicized, back to your question on social impact, people, no matter how hardened and how, sullied they are by the world, so to speak, they, their heart warms at some point in time with something meaningful. And our job is to provide a little bit of that any chance we get. So thank you again.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. We're going to go ahead and take a short break to let people know how they can support this podcast and this network and this platform on Special Chronicles. But when we come back, we'll get into some exclusive new news about you and the future of United, and a question that I always end all the conversations with. So that's coming up after the break right here on the Special Chronicles show and our Unified at Work series on specialchronicles.com. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to learn how you can become a Special Chronicles supporter so we can continue to produce this podcast. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. And now, back to the show to continue the conversation today And back to the show. And we're back. This is Daniel, founder of Special Chronicles and a service ambassador at United Airlines, joined this week with Oscar Munoz from United. Welcome back, Oscar. I kind of paused there since we had retirement for you back in May, but it's a good transition now to kind of get into some exciting news and some exclusive news. I think it's been shared maybe a little bit the past couple months. I know when we started planning for this season 2 of this Unified Work series, it wasn't out there in the public that much, but now by the time people hear this in October, it will be probably a little bit. But talk to us now a little bit about the Archer Aviation and how you are joining this new board and what other airlines and companies can learn from. Well, let's just start with that. So tell us about this exclusive news with Archer Aviation and how you're joining this new board.
No, that's great. Well, so Archer Aviation is one of a few entrants in the space of, it's called ETVOL, and it's electric. It's a vertical and lift sort of airplane. It's an electric airplane that can vertically take off and lift. And so there's many folks, and I think at United, they've chosen to invest in the company in a couple of ways, just a sheer investment, and they've also promised to buy quite a large order of those aircrafts. But here's the cool thing about it. So the technology, all of the things that allow electric to work, they're compact, very cool looking. If you ever find a picture of one of the aircraft, they're just very, the old Jetsons cartoon kind of area. But
yeah, I saw one of those pictures.
So it's safe, it's efficient, it's sustainable, it's ultra quiet, it doesn't take up a lot of space. But here's the premise. If you think of Uber, and we all know ride sharing and programs that it has, you can call a plane, you can call a car to your house to take you to the airport. Unfortunately, the last bastion of customer centricity and support in our industry is that we can't control everything in your travel, right? We can, once you get to the airport, once you get on our aircraft, we can do everything for you that we can. But getting to the airport is still a stress-inducing aspect. You and I live in Chicago, and anytime we've had to drive to the airport at different times, I live downtown, and it's 23 miles to the airport. It's 19 miles to the airport. It can take me a half an hour. It can take me 2.5 hours to get to that airport.
Yeah.
You never know how. So that adds stress to the whole thing. So this concept of ride sharing with an electric aircraft is the coolest thing, because now you don't have to worry about traffic in essence. And importantly, the way we'll do it at United, it's a one-stop shop. If you're booking a flight from Chicago to San Francisco, as part of that booking, we'll also ask you over time is if indeed you would like a ride to the airport on one of our new Archer aircraft. And so somewhere near your home, there will be a place, a physical place, this is the objective and the initiative, where you can drive to or take an Uber to. And that will be, in essence, the train destination, the plane destination, the plane origin. And you'll just, you'll have a scheduled service. These vehicles hold 3 to 4 people, and so you will be shuttled to the airport. And I'll quote me on the time, but it's minutes. But more importantly, it's a guaranteed time frame, right? You're not going to incur traffic. You'll go to a similar facility near the O'Hare Airport where you'll just go into the airport. So the stress of having to get to the airport in Chicago will be reduced. And so in this aircraft, the reason we chose it to some degree, obviously vetted it for safety from all our experts in the field, but it's, of all the things that are out there, it's the most simple and practical and repeatable sort of thing. It's built efficiently, and it's not a lot of bells and whistles and all that sort of stuff. It's real. And so we just, for simplicity is key in our industry. We don't want a lot of moving parts on these things. So this aircraft's going to be a really cool thing. So we're very excited about that. So when I had the opportunity to talk with him, I said, not only from an investment perspective, but also from a board membership, I said, yeah, I'd love to participate in this, because I understand what we're trying to do with aircraft like this. And I think we can help the company continue to build bigger and better things for us.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw some of those pictures. And yeah, so excited to hear more about this Archer Aviation and this Uber of the skies. It sounds like an Uber of the skies.
Well, you have to say ride sharing because you can't use any particular brand name.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. Yeah. So let's back to ride sharing of the skies. Yeah. Let's. The new sustainability goals with going green, and I think it was launched. I think Scott Kobe had announced that I think by 2050 we're going to go green by 50%. Yeah.
0%.
Yeah.
Well, I announced the 50% some years ago. So at United, we've taken all of this very seriously from way back when. The simple concept, at least that's driven me, was the fact that global warming is a thing, and not everyone believes it. But the first thing you have to decide is whether or not you believe it's a big thing, and more importantly, can you do something about it? And of course, anyone can. The real important question is, will you do something about it? And that's the question and challenge that I give to people on everything, whether it's inclusion and diversity or sustainability or any of those things. It's like, everybody can talk about it, but are you actually physically doing something? And and we were the leader in so many things at United, and Scott's really taken it to an even higher level and really is driving. What we need to do is drive the entire global airline industry, because we burn a lot of fossil fuel as an airline and as an airline industry. And if we don't make the decision to do something about this, right, something's going to happen to us and to our planet. So that's the meaningful thing that has driven a lot of our actions.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and take another short break, because if it wasn't for our partners and sponsors, then I wouldn't be able to be behind the microphone and we wouldn't be able to be talking.
Yeah, I love it. Hey,
as much fun as yeah, I know. As much fun as it is to get behind the microphone, if it wasn't for people donating to this podcast and for our sponsors, then we wouldn't be able to keep the lights on and keep this. And so when we come back, we'll get into some final thoughts and a final question. I conclude with all of the guests with the final question right after the break as we wrap up this conversation. You're listening to the Special Chronicles show. Our guest is Oscar Munoz. We'll be right back right here with the Unified Work series when the conversation returns. And hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to hear a message from our partner. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives, and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they're literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. And now we return to our conversation. This episode continues right now. This is Daniel, founder of Special Chronicles and a service ambassador at United Airlines. Our guest this week, this episode 448 of the Special Chronicles show, is, and this season 2 of a Unified Work series, is Oscar Munoz. Welcome back, Oscar. And before we get to that final question, I wanted to touch on 2 quick things. One is I wanted to we get a lot of emails, so it's hard to reply to every email, as I'm sure you know. But I wanted to, at least now that we'll talking on a podcast, I want to thank you for that email that you had sent me after we did that live Q&A back in May.
I think one of the long lost arts of human interaction is expressing gratitude in a way that isn't like, hey, thanks, and then a text, it's good to see you. Hey, that's helpful. I think when I was sick, I learned this through experience, like we do a lot of things. I had so many incredible letters and notes written to me while I was sick by people I didn't even know. And when you're sick, it means the world to you. And I also heard from people who were close friends who said, "Hey, I meant to write, I meant to send something, but I knew you were busy. I knew you were getting all that sort of stuff, but I really meant to do that." I decided personally at that point in time, I am no longer going to mean to do something or think about doing something. I'm just going to do it, right? Send a note, send flowers, send food, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just do it. The actual thought and action means the world to everyone. So I try in every interaction I have, and I have many, to send personal notes of thanks that, you cherish that. I think I cherish that more than anything. I still have my boxes and boxes of notes when I was sick.
Yeah.
And I'm having a bad day, I go look through them and just remind myself where I was 6 years ago.
Yeah. I've got here in my small little studio. I'm not the desk that we're podcasting from right now, but I've got another desk over to like just off camera here, and it's in front of a window, and I've got a small little bulletin board with a bunch of handwritten notes that people have sent me. Everybody, our mutual friend Tim Shriver, him and his wife Linda, they sent me a personal note, and then a bunch of other people. And yeah, it means a lot with all this technology with the phone. It means a lot to have those personal.
That's a good lesson for all of us. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you.
And by the way, listen to you with your hashtag humble brag here in my small studio.
Oh, well. So I used to broadcast from my bedroom, and so there used to be a bed behind me. But now, like it's when my sister moved out, I was like, well, we've got this extra room, and instead of it being a storage room, well, why not just
embrace it? That's right. In a world of virtual backgrounds, anyway, we can do whatever, but it's nice to have some physical space.
Yeah, it is. So, and actually, one of my producers actually sent me this green screen. So, is there anything that is there any final thoughts on your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles show that you want to share with our listeners?
I would just once again offer my deep personal gratitude to you and the other folks that work with United from your community, and then of course the special attachment to the Special Olympics group and Tim Shriver and family. It's just been a very enjoyable. One of my sons and I got to go to one of the World Games when they were in Seattle and spent a few days with the athletes, with the coordinators, the people that represent, and it's a special community, not to use that too often. And so thank you for your constant reminder of how we can help and assist, but more importantly, thank you for the work that you do for our United family and employees. So
yeah, absolutely
heartwarming.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a really gratifying, and just like it's a bunch. It's just like I love this work, this podcast, and be behind the microphone. The same thing is the same thing I say about coming to look at United is it's that same love of connecting with people, and it's gratifying to be able. It's helped to kind of grow in self-confidence and really be able to connect and show people that compassion and love every day. So if our listeners want to connect with you on social media and follow you, Instagram and LinkedIn plugs, how can people?
Yeah, I think on the screen is my Instagram handle, and then LinkedIn is Oscar Munoz.
Awesome.
Real hard to find. Love to, and very similar to you, Daniel. I like to project not only the business sides of things that we do, but I tend to always want to put a little special personal dynamic to everything I write, everything I say, everything I participate in. And this event is no different from that, because we do forget in our haste of time and our desire to do so many things that we forget that underlying everything in the world that we do is this dynamic of human connection. And caring for others is not a bad thing necessarily. By the way, I urge you, if you ever travel in Denver, at the hub, there's an organization of people there called Be Good to People. And it's just, it struck me from day one when I saw the brand, because their concept is just simply that: be good to people. It's like, wow, what a concept, right?
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to. My cousin's a police officer up in Whiteville, Colorado, and he and his wife and their new daughter live up there. And then I've got another athlete friend. It lives in Colorado. So the next time that I come out there, I'll have to check that out. As we come to a close now, I conclude with a final question. But first, we've got a bumper, a little bumper to introduce that final question.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference.
Our demands are
Equality.
Dignity. And the recognition of our shared humanity.
We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
More divided than ever.
and coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution.
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
And with that, as you know, the inclusion and inclusion revolution is a big part of Special Olympics, but it's also inclusion and taking inclusion to new heights is a big part of all United family as well. So I conclude with all the guests, at least for the past couple of years, ever since coming back from the Abu Dhabi World Games, I've been concluding with this final question. And so I'll do the same with you. And that is, what does inclusion mean to you?
We talked a little bit about it over the course of the podcast, but I think inclusion is what it means to me. How do I put this? Your feeling of inclusion is what it means to me, meaning I want to be able to ask you or have anybody ask you how you feel about participating in my organization or the organization we're part of or whatever we do. We put a lot of metrics on this and how many people of this and are employed or do this. We don't always ask the question of the actual individuals constantly. How do you feel about being here with us? Do you feel included? Do you feel wanted? Do you feel valued? Do you feel that? And those are really, really difficult metrics because we're all humans and one day we feel more wanted than the other, right? We go up and down. But that is, for me, the ultimate goal of anything that you do, whether it's culture or strategy or operations efficiency and diversity inclusion and ESG and all the different things that are out there today. The real benchmark is how humans, individual humans, answer those questions. Do you feel valued? Do you feel part of something? Because that is the ultimate emotion inside a human being that gets them to engage and do the things. And when I hear the things that you do for our customers, that comes from your effort, your discretionary effort. You want to do these things because where you work, you feel included, you feel valued, right? And that's the trick in leadership that we often forget. We set broad strategies about business and all that is critically important. But in a business like ours, where it's people to people, you know what? Inclusion has the benefit of making people like you really go out of their way to help others. And so for me, inclusion is how others truly feel when someone asks them about these things.
Awesome. We get a lot of great answers, but that's a perfect way to wrap up this conversation, our time together. It's been a joy having you on the podcast, Oscar, and hopefully the next time you're in Chicago or the next time that we meet again in person, we'll hopefully be able to take a picture without the masks.
Yeah, that is definitely a good thing. So before we finish, and just for me and for my social media, let me turn the tables on you a little bit.
Oh yeah.
My phone here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I'm gonna just ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
You can see a TikTok light in the back there. Before I record, I want my viewers to know who you are. So I'll do a quick little intro.
Yeah.
I'll ask you about Georgia, your significant other, your life together, real quickly, just as a matter, and then your work at the company. So, all right, I'm about to start here. Really? All right. Hello, everybody. I am so honored to have joined Daniel in his podcast, which you'll get information on how to subscribe and listen to this. But he's just he's a great friend, spoke at my retirement function so eloquently, and we just had a wonderful conversation about a variety of topics. But I just want to take a moment to introduce you to him, not as the great ambassador, service ambassador he is at United, but more as the human that's out there. And so, Dan, maybe I thought you could talk a little bit about Georgia, your significant other, and the birth of your new niece, just a little bit, just a few seconds about your personal life.
Yeah. So thank you, Oscar. And my girlfriend Georgia, she's also an athlete in Special Olympics, and we met as part of our athlete leadership programs. And she is my first girlfriend, and I'm really grateful to have really met and connected and fall in love with somebody that cares for me just as much as I care for her. And then my new niece, I don't publicly talk about a lot of my personal life on air, but I'll share it. It's amazing. It's my first niece, and just it's amazing to get the pictures and video clips that my sister and my brother-in-law sent me. So it's amazing to have during all this pandemic to really see new life, and then also to be able to connect with someone that to connect with a significant other is really just makes life worth it.
Worth living, right? I mean, it's a simple question and eloquent words, Daniel, as always. We all just want to enjoy the fruits of being alive and being with other humans. So congratulations on being with Georgia, and it's good to be loved. So
thank you.
Thanks for having me again. Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yeah. Awesome. And I made a note of the timestamp on the audio, so I can send you I can send your assistant the video we coded as well.
Okay, that'll be great. That'll be great. Work with Lauren, and she'll get you get all that sort of stuff. So
definitely.
It's out there.
Definitely. Also, so thanks, Oscar, for coming on the podcast. And folks listening, stay tuned to this series. Every week this month of October, we have all new Unified at Work conversations. We'll be on the job with United's Disability Business Resource Group Bridge Leadership, and Managing Director of now Los Angeles Hub, Jonna McGrath, and a few customer service representatives in Chicago, Angela Franklin and Monica Lightfoot, and Paralympic swimmer Jessica Long that United has sponsored. All new guests coming up this month. So stay tuned. Remember to subscribe and follow. Do what you do with this podcast. Subscribe and follow and rate and review us. Season 2 of our Unified at Work series returns weekly this month. Subscribe to this podcast to be notified of our weekly episodes. And as a reminder, Unified at Work series is produced in collaboration with United Airlines and is delivered to podcast apps everywhere by Special Chronicles. SpecialChronicles.com for links to subscribe and listen in the description below. Thanks, Oscar, and look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, Daniel. Be good.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Shows podcast. Visit SpecialChronicles.com to follow Special Chronicles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified of new episodes. Also, subscribe to our newsletter mailing list to sign up for our updates and get exclusive content delivered to your inbox. Remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Subscribe or follow and rate and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, and wherever you get your podcasts. Finally, please share this episode and all of our podcasts with your friends and family. Help us grow our audience and reach 5,000 downloads of our audio podcasts and over 14,000 average monthly listeners. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week with exciting new guests. See you next week.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.